All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to something different. There was a D&D Direct a couple days ago. I tried to get this video recorded this is the same day that it had happened, and I ran into a bunch of issues, including one of them being I had to record a collab of a video that you guys should be seeing soon. So, um, I'm finally going to talk about my opinions on the D&D Direct, and if this becomes a regular thing, which I think is cool, maybe this will expand. But for right now, so D&D Direct. It was a direct. There wasn't really anything on there that really kind of surprised me. I guess let's just jump into what actually was on there. So, I guess the quote unquote biggest announcement from it was Spelljammer's Adventures in Space, which is a new campaign setting that they're bringing out. They're going to be releasing, I believe it's in August, which is pretty soon, to be perfectly honest. I cannot for the life of me think of how long it was between like the other announcements of campaign settings when they come out. But WotC tends to play things a little bit close to the chest and gives announcements within months of things showing up, which I think is interesting. I completely understand why they do it, and they've been very effective in doing it. But it always, to me, it always feels when they announce this is something, it always feels like, oh my god, it's so soon. I guess it's because I'm used to directs and the things like that being for like video games, where they will announce something and then it doesn't come out for 4.5 years. So Spelljammer's Adventures in Space. The only way you were surprised that this was happening is if you haven't been paying attention to D&D. Spelljammer, there have been tons and tons of hints that Spelljammers was coming to 5th edition. I believe there is actually a Spelljammer in... I have to remember what it was, which book it was. I think it was the... Dungeon of the Mad Mage, Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I think there was actually, as they were in there, there was actually a Spelljammer in there. And if I remember correctly, feel free to correct me in the comments. I think there was at least one Unearthed Arcana that had some Spelljammery stuff in there. So I was not surprised that Spelljammer's Adventures in Space was a thing. A little bit surprised with how soon it's coming out, but I was kind of expecting that to be something that they announced. Now, some of the stuff that's in there, the new races, I think are pretty cool. I'm a huge fan of Thri-kreen, but that's mostly because Thri-kreen actually came from the Dark Sun campaign setting, which is my personal favorite campaign setting. It is a post-apocalyptic D&D campaign setting, and it's awesome. All the gods are dead. Athos, the world that it's set on, is this kind of dried up, shriveled up desert of a planet. It's super fun and cool. Yeah, the new races are cool. Spelljammer's in itself is like an acid trip of a campaign setting. It is really just out there, crazy stuff, and I love that. It's not going to be for everyone, but it is something that's really cool. And again, it is a classic D&D campaign setting. I believe Spelljammer's first came out in like 2nd edition is when they first started talking about spelljamming and all that sort of stuff, in Crystal Spheres and Phlogiston and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I'm excited about that. The books themselves look really cool. There's actually 3 of them, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I actually went and looked them up on D&D Beyond, because that's where I get all my stuff. And price-wise, they're a lot cheaper than I thought they would be. With the fact that it's 3 separate books, I thought it was going to be something like the gift box thing that they had at the beginning of the year was like $140 or something. But no, the Spelljammers Adventures in Space is $50 on D&D Beyond, and I'm assuming it's going to be a similar price for the physical copy. Maybe a little bit more expensive, or probably a little bit more expensive because you get a poster map and a DM screen and things like that. So I haven't actually checked what it's going for physical copies. Let's see if I can find it real quick. There we go. Nope. That's the second edition version. Amazon. There we go. Yeah, it's looking like... that's totally wrong. It's looking like it's going to be around $70 for the physical version of it, which again is not horrendous for 3 books. It's a little bit more than your standard campaign setting, but it gets you a lot more than a standard campaign setting. Moving on, the rest of the stuff in here, I don't know. They did have some stuff about Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. I'm a little bit worried about that. Mostly because the first way that they introduced the book is, and these are their words, not mine. This is the first book written entirely by brown people, or something similar to that. They use the specific phrase "brown people," and I'm generally not a fan of advertising something based on who wrote it. I've seen this technique, this advertising technique used a lot, where they don't talk about the product itself, they talk about who it is that made the product, and they generally do that, or that's the first thing they talk about is who made the product. And a lot of times when they do that, it's because the product itself either is unfinished and they don't have any ability to advertise what it actually is, or if it is a product that's finished, which Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel definitely finished at this point. Because it's coming out in like a month or two here. It's because the product itself is not good enough to market, so they have to find some other way to market it. And using the names of the people that write it is a remarkably useful talent. I'm hoping I am 100% wrong about that. I'm hoping that they're just trying a new marketing tactic, and they're trying to target a different audience that has been or they're trying to kind of target something that has been a source of drama for them. If you guys remember the whole thing about Candlekeep Mysteries, and one of the authors got really upset and is now just sworn off to D&D and wanted his name taken off. Well, that kind of all fits into this idea. So the stuff that they did talk about for Journey Through the Radiant Citadel, they basically talked about 2 of the stories that are in there. The first one, they talked about the fact that it is related to kind of Caribbean mythology and folklore and things like that. And that was it. They said it was something about the Caribbean, and that there were a lot of pastel colors. They specifically said this is the first time we've seen pastel covers in D&D or something along that lines. And I'm like, no. Wild Beyond the Witchlight had tons of pastels in it. The Feywild does pastel colors all the time. So I don't know why they focused on the colors. The artwork itself was kind of cool. The other one that I can't... Fiend of Hollowmine was the other adventure they talked. And this one they actually gave some details, and I think it's super cool. It's based on Dia de los Muertos, which is Day of the Dead, and it's a Mexican holiday. It happens right after Halloween, and so obviously this is going to be inspired by Mexican folklore and things like that, which I think is really cool. But the thing I think the most cool about it is this Fiend of Hollowmine is based on the idea that once a year there is this celebration where the dead can actually come back and interact with living people for a single day. And so they have this big party around it. And I think that's such an interesting idea for just for a cultural of event. There's so many different things that can happen. If somebody died unexpectedly for some reason, this could be a situation where their family could actually get the clothes that they want. If someone died that was in less than great situations, if they come back during this thing, the family has to deal with the fact that they have to deal with this person, or other people that were affected by them have to deal with the fact that this person that is dead now, that people are not particularly upset that they're dead, is now coming back. Like, there's so many different stories you could tell around a culture that has a single day every year where the dead get to come back. Like, it's just a cool idea. So I'm super excited about that. I'm excited about the book itself, just because they do mention that they are trying to focus on a lot of cultures and things that just really aren't represented in Western society, specifically like the folklore and mythology. Mythology itself is a great window into culture, and we in the West here, we don't get to hear a lot of Caribbean folklore, or a lot of African folklore and things like that. We just don't get it here because we have all of the European folklore that we're so familiar with. Like, everybody knows Greek folklore, and Norse folklore has become really, really popular. And then we always have the English folklore. The things like the Knights of the Round Table. Going all the way back to Beowulf. Like, we are very, very inundated with that. And African folklore and culture and things like that just isn't something that we get as much here. So I'm really, really interested in that. And also, the other places that they're going, I'm assuming that they'll also have some stuff from South America, another place that I know very little about their folklore, in Central America and all that stuff. I think it'll be really cool. So excited to see that. The actual presentation itself did not super wow me, but I did like the Fiend of Hollowmine section because I thought that was super cool. Moving on. Other stuff. There's a new D&D starter set. They claim that there is now an online onboarding aspect to it. It's supposed to be much easier for new people to get into than the previous starter set, which is Lost Mines of Philander, or whatever it was. I don't think I've ever run Lost Mines, but I know a lot of people who have, and I've kind of watched it be run. It was a pretty simple thing. I don't know what they're going to be doing with Dragons of Stormwick Isle that is somehow going to make it easier to get new people in. To be perfectly honest, 5th edition D&D is probably the easiest version of D&D to get a new player into. So I'm interested in seeing what that is. And again, a new starter set was another thing that had kind of leaked before, and so it wasn't super surprising, but it does look kind of cool. They did do a tease for the Dragonlance campaign setting. Again, not a huge surprise. For years now, we've known that Dragonlance was going to be a thing. They commissioned a few books, and then they uncommissioned them, and then there was a huge fight over the world of Krynn and all that stuff. But we knew it was coming. So now we actually have a trailer, and literally that's it. There was no kind of announcement date. They didn't really announce anything. It was just a trailer that said Dragonlance. So it was cool. But I've never had a huge tie to Dragonlance. It was not one of the campaign settings that I ever got into. Forgotten Realms, I'm a lot more into. I've read a couple of Ari Salvatore's books, and I know the lore pretty well. And then obviously, Baldur's Gate and all that stuff, that's all Forgotten Realms stuff. So I've just never been into Dragonlance. So it's cool, but it'd be much cooler if they actually had something that they were going to tell us other than the name Dragonlance. Like, I don't know if it's a campaign setting, if it's going to be something where they actually do like an Adventures League season out of it. I don't know. They did announce Dungeons & Dragons Onslaught, which is kind of a miniature strategy game type of the thing. It looks cool. This is not the first time Dungeons and Dragons have done that. Back in 4th edition, they had something that I can't remember what it was called. But they had a miniature fighting game there. A little while back, they actually had a miniature combat game based on dragons that I think used the same system as the X-Wing, the Fantasy Flight X-Wing tabletop miniatures game. So it looks cool. This is interesting. Again, because of my agoraphobia and everything, I don't actually have the ability to play physical games with other people. So this is something that I think is super cool, and I will never get a chance to play it with anyone unless they come up with a digital version of it or somehow are able to play it on like tabletop simulators or something, which kind of sucks because it looks like a cool game. What else did they talk about? They gave us a Baldur's Gate 3 update, which to me was probably the most underwhelming aspect of the thing, because it was literally just, hey, we're still here. It literally was just them talking about what they've already done. There was no new announcements. There was nothing except for the fact that it's supposed to be released in 2023. I don't know if they actually had announced that before the Direct, but they didn't give an announcement date. They just said it'll come out in 2023. So even that is not really an announcement. It was just kind of, hey, don't forget about us. We just wanna. And for me, I will probably get Baldur's Gate 3 when it comes out, but I am done with early access games. It was a cool idea when it came out, but I am too many companies abuse the early access as a system now, and I'm not saying that Baldur's Gate 3 is abusing it, but right now you are literally paying them to QA test their game. So I will be super happy when it actually comes out. I probably will not invest in it until that point. There was an announcement for Neverwinter. They specifically said I think the new expansion is going to be called Dragonslayer. For people that never played Neverwinter is an MMO. When it first released, it actually was based on 4th edition D&D. And I beta tested Neverwinter in multiple beta tests. From the very first beta test all the way through the first couple expansions, I played Neverwinter religiously. I don't anymore because it is a massive grind fest, and there is a pay-to-win aspect to it, because in order to upgrade your gear so that you can actually do the later content, you either have to grind literally for dozens and dozens of hours, or you have to pay to get these things that let you upgrade your gear so you can actually survive the newer content. That being said, the Dragonslayer update looks like it is basically redoing the very first endgame content for Neverwinter. The first endgame content was based on the Rise of Tiamat books, and so that's what you did. You fought the Cult of the Dragon, and then you went, and the big raid at the time was going and fighting Tiamat. It was actually a pretty cool raid. You got to fight this massive 5-headed dragon. It was super cool. And the combat aspect of Neverwinter, it is a massively fun game to play. Like, the combat system is super cool. I just wish it was in a less kind of super grindy pay to win style game. So for me, it looks like Dragonslayer is just them updating old content and putting a fresh coat of paint, because they do mention you're going to get to fight Tiamat, which you've already done. If I had to make a guess, I think they're effectively going to re-release the content with a fresh coat of paint, like rebalance things and fix some quest lines and stuff, because the early stuff was really boring. The end game content was real bad when Neverwinter launched. That's what it looks like to me. Some people have tried to make a connection between Dragonlance. No, Neverwinter is 100% Forgotten Realms. They've never gone outside Forgotten Realms except for the Ravenloft expansion, and even that Ravenloft, because of how it works, technically can show up in the Forgotten Realms. As much as it is its own quote-unquote campaign setting, it's specifically written that Forgotten Realms characters go to Ravenloft all the time, to go to Barovia all the time, so it's not that big a deal. They talked about some new Whiz Kids minis. The minis look cool. Again, I actually have a ton of minis that I keep meaning to put up there. Tons and tons. They're all unpainted because I'm one of those evil people that doesn't paint their minis. Because this makes painting remarkably difficult. But they look cool. I think they're pre-painted minis too, which I like that. But minis in general are a massive money sink that I can't afford. I'm not saying they're bad in any way, shape, or form. These are super, super cool. And if you can afford them, you'll probably really like them. WizKids make some good stuff. I'm probably not going to buy any of them because it just costs too much money. However, I may hint to family members when like birthdays and Christmas could come around that, hey, you want to get me some? These would be cool. The thing I would say I was genuinely surprised and impressed about the Dungeons and Dragons creature and terrain campaign cases. If you look over here, those 3 boxes, those are dungeon tiles. They were something that came out in 4th edition that I actually used. They were pre-printed tiles. They came in various sizes, and you could kind of mix and match them to create your own maps on the fly. They had 3 different versions. They had dungeons, they had wilderness, and I think they had towns or something like that. I have them right there. I can look. The city, the wilderness, and the dungeon. That's what the 3 ones I had. I bought all of them. They were super, super fun to use. These campaign cases are even cooler. So first things first, I don't understand how they do this, but they apparently have this stuff where you can kind of peel it off and then stick it. They have 2 different things. They have creatures and then they have terrain. For the creatures, they have all these different token sizes, which is effectively medium-sized creatures, large creatures, but all the tokens they look to be plastic and they're blank. And then they have these sheets that have all these effectively kind of like sticker things, but if I'm understanding this correctly, they're not stickers. They're not technically adhesive. What they do is they have something that allows them to stick to the plastic stuff, but also be completely removable. So it doesn't look like they have any sort of adhesive. It's probably just a property of whatever material they're made out of is designed to kind of somewhat attach to these things. So that to me is not that amazing, mostly because Pathfinder has been doing something kind of similar to that for a long time. I actually have one of their Bestiary boxes, and basically what they do is they give you a bunch of stands, and then you have these really nice cardboard die cut pictures that you just kind of pop out and you place them in a stand, and so you have a number of stands, and then you just put the things in. These are just going to be kind of circles that you attach pictures to. So unlike the Bestiary boxes from Pathfinder, which they actually stand up. They're 2D images, but you stand them up so they look a little more like minis. These are just going to be little coasters with pictures on them. Still very cool. However, the one I really, really liked, the terrain one, works in a very similar way, where just like these here, you have these terrain pieces. They're actually kind of like puzzle pieces, very similar to... You guys can see my D&D board games there. Those all have terrain pieces that have like little puzzle pieces things, so you can kind of connect them together. That's how you play the game. It's the same system for this terrain thing. However, they have like holes and barrels and furniture and all this stuff of the same material that the monster stickers are that will stick to the terrain. So you can build your terrain and then you can add holes and other things, whatever you want, and just stick it on there, and then it just comes back off and you put it back. Like, it's super cool. I love that. If I was still running in-person games, I 100% would get both of these things because they look amazing and awesome. And I hope that they come out with more because they look super cool. They also come in a cool little briefcase kind of thing that screams Stranger Things to me. So yeah, super excited about that. And then finally, we did get an announcement for the Dungeons & Dragons movie. If you're not aware, there is an actual Dungeons & Dragons movie being made by I can't even remember who's doing it. I'll see if real quick I can. It's a joint venture production between Entertainment One and Sweet Pea Entertainment, and it's going to be released by Paramount. So this is a big thing. There are big names attached to it. Chris Pine's going to be it. Michelle Rodriguez. I'm trying to see if there's any. Hugh Grant's going to be in it. It's going to be. It is the biggest Dungeons and Dragons movie there's ever been. There was a Dungeons and Dragons movie from like the '90s. I want us to say it was real bad. It's real bad. It's actually fun to watch because of how bad it is. But it had zero budget. This is actually a big budget movie, and we actually have a name for it. It's called Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I'm hesitant about this. The last time a geek license was taken to a big budget and given a huge budget, we got the Warcraft movie and the Assassin's Creed movie. Like, it's just... There's not a good history. Even if you give them lots of money, filmmakers, for whatever reason, can't just adapt something to screen. They always have to change things. So it's like, well, no, this is the better version of it. And I understand different mediums, you have to tell stories differently. I'm not upset about changing things because the medium just doesn't work very well that way. But it always seems like they have to do something just really stupid. And they change essential lore and things like that because it'll look cool on thing. So I'm hesitantly optimistic about the Dungeons and Dragons movie. If Wizard of the Coast actually has some influence on it, I think it'll be good. I'm a fan of Chris Pine. I think he's a great actor. Hugh Grant's another one. I'm not as familiar with Michelle Rodriguez. Like, I know who she is, and I've watched quite a few of the stuff. Like, she's been in she was in the Fast and the Furious franchise and all that stuff. But I've never had a film of hers that has been like, oh, I love this. Chris Pine, on the other hand, has done a lot of good stuff. He's Wonder Woman. He's Captain Kirk. Like, he's done some pretty good stuff. So I'm hesitantly optimistic about it. Honor Among Thieves, I think, is a cool title for the movie. I'm worried to get my hopes up because I've been burned before. But yeah, overall, that was the D&D Direct. I thought it was cool. There were some places where I was like, I'm not super happy with this, and I think it was mostly just this is a brand new format that they've never done before. Like Anna Prosser and B. Dave. What is his name? Wow. B. Dave Walters. That's his name. Anna Prosser and B. Dave Walters were great. They are wonderful people. But, and this is something that I don't know if it's the actor in me or what, but it was all their delivery just felt really wooden. Which again, they're reading off a teleprompter and they have very specific things that they have to say. They probably didn't get a ton of time to rehearse it either. But because you just don't do that for things like this. Again, Anna's done a ton of hosting stuff, and I know B. Dave Walters has done just tons and tons of really awesome stuff. The format felt really awkward to me, and I think that was this was the first time they'd ever done it, and I think the more they do it, I think the better it's going to get. I don't know if the kind of wooden delivery is just indicative of how all this stuff always goes, because directs in general and presentations like this always kind of feel like that. The few times I've ever seen that where they haven't kind of felt wooden, where they felt a lot more I don't know, just more personal and less like, hey, hi, I'm here reading a script for you, and I'm going to say the exact things that I'm supposed to say. The few times I've seen it where that wasn't it was either non-actors were doing it, things like the Final Fantasy XIV stuff where Yoshi P will come out and talk and other things like that. Like, Yoshi P is not an actor. And Yoshi P is really good in front of a crowd. So the things like that I've watched, and they've just been more fun. There was a couple moments. I remember one specifically where B.D. Walters was talking to Anna, and he had to, like, he was supposed to turn and he was addressing her, but he had to do this so he could read the teleprompter, and that is just a bad move in something like this, especially something that's pre-recorded like this, because that's something that could have been dealt with just by reshooting this scene. It's as simple as, okay, I'm going to just memorize this line so I can say it directly to Anna, or we're going to cheat in a way that I can have a teleprompter behind Anna or something like that. I can have a teleprompter behind them so that it can look like I am talking to them when I'm actually not. Eye lines are remarkably forgiving, especially when the cameras were, quote unquote, as far back as they were. There was enough there that you wouldn't have been able to tell had they put like just a cue card or something behind Anna's head off a camera. You wouldn't have been able to tell that B.D. Walters was reading off it to the teleprompter or anything. There's so many different techniques you can use to do that, and they didn't. It was just really, really cringy. Again, that is the actor in me. And my experience as being a host or doing any kind of hosting duties is literally my YouTube channel. So, they both have significantly more experience than I do. So take anything I say with a grain of salt. But anyway, overall, cool thing. I hope this becomes a regular thing. I like the idea of getting hyped about new D&D releases and stuff like that. D&D has become a wide enough brand now that even if they do stick to the like 2 to 3 books that they have been, which I really, really want them to do, I don't want them to put out more content per year than they already are, because that will run into the same issue that 3rd and 4th edition had of just content bloat. But even if they do just stick to the 2 to 3 books a year that they put out, there's so many other things that are licensed by the D&D that keep happening over and over and over again, that directs like this, I think, could become a much more regular thing. If not, I definitely think they could become an annual thing that could be a lot of fun. They could become semi-annual as well, where they do it a couple times a year, depending on how many different D&D products are. And I like getting hyped about this stuff. I think it's fun. I enjoyed watching the Nintendo Direct. I enjoyed filming my reaction to the Nintendo Direct. I thought it was super cool. I plan on reacting to more directs if I can get other people to kind of pair up with. I think it's fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And like I said, content is coming. We'll have a new D&D deep dive on Monday. We will have a new guest on Wednesday for the D&D deep dive, so stay tuned to that. And there's going to be a in-depth review coming out relatively soon as well. So stay tuned for all that stuff. Otherwise, again, as all for me, Lynn, I'll see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.